Hi, this is author-philosopher Ronald E. Springer of EthicsUnderground.com here to continue the reading of Moral Armor. Chapter 8, Part 35, Stress and Anguish as a Medium. Please hit like and subscribe before we dive in. Every decision a man makes is a fork in the road indicating his prime intention. One leads to life, the other to death. We all make mistakes from time to time, decisions based on fear that lead us in the wrong direction temporarily until we see the penalties and correct our course. But a spirit murderer chooses this as his constant. A self-made decision is the choice to venture forth into the unknown, to conquer it, making it the known, the mastered, and then venturing further. For the fear-driven, it is quite different, an immediate disengagement. He initiates a stream of justifications as his alternate path, amounting to nothing more than the cancer of cognition and his many well-deserved forms of neurotic anxiety. Human beings are premise-driven entities. Our automatic functions give us a head start as we work to automate more and more processes over the course of our lives, to grow in stature and power. We are meant to follow their lead and move forward, but fear-driven man tries to operate in reverse, to break their patterns. Along any particular line, his desire to evade existence and thought immediately suspends all further virtue. No, he doesn't reverse reality or even reverse his consciousness. He only causes a cacophony of contradictory motives and actions thrown among the rational human motives and actions needed to live, like sand between the gears of his mind. When he violates the proper flow of life with impossible desires, his body tries to obey his consciously chosen direction and succeeds only in clogging up the works. Emotional stress is the body's warning to us that we are using cognition improperly. What is that disease where the victim twitches so much he could rattle himself out of his own chair? Feeling our heart pound, having shallow breath, a dry mouth, and having our body firing off senseless gestures is just what we've all suffered to a lesser degree when confronted with an uncomfortable situation. Twitches and stress are the result of the desire to have reality be something other than it is, our body's response to unrealistic demands. Physical processes, because they must act in harmony with their natural purposes, cannot act in contradiction to them, and only become hampered and dysfunctional when illogical control is attempted. Wishing to control elements outside our power, we only lose control over ourselves. Whenever a physical inconsistency is felt, a pain in the chest, brain, or ill control in one's muscles, if it is stress-driven, and often it is, then something must be faced. A self-made man has the courage to look, knowing in his deepest maturity that he won't be sorry. He trains himself to engage immediately, to learn its subcomponents and conquer them. Learning time after time that there is nothing to fear, he no longer associates his instigation to bravery, but moves on to the patterns above. As a result, the state of the self-made is an active, youthful relaxation. Nothing in day-to-day life is outside his power to deal with. He is not without tension, as solving problems to his interest certainly tests the limits of his endurance. The key is that his energy is productively channeled, and he learns to cope with high levels of responsible activity, developing grace under pressure. Ultimately, his devotion makes it look easy, and the pathways to his pride appear automatic, even to himself. This is where virtue becomes second nature. On the other side, the ill tension suffered by the fear-driven, which shows so clearly in their faces, struggling with muscles not meant to be controlled, is his denial in action. Fighting himself, he accomplishes little, and what he does accomplish comes at a much greater emotional cost. Most often he sidesteps his incapacities by evading the dangers altogether, never conquering his pounding heart or any other symptoms of trauma. Choosing dead-end interests over any crucial self-serving purpose, he believes he can escape the potential of future disappointment. By never trying, he ends up with the angst and desperation of living a lifetime with a broken heart. He is devoted only to what is easiest for him, the path of least resistance, and never develops any skill for the dynamic courage which would bring peace and calm. Necessarily, then, he can never develop the productive endurance or the intellectual range to project goals which would make the effort towards them worthwhile. His alternative to depth and clarity, things that must not be seen by himself or others, leaves him stuck in the shallow, miserable loop of their concealment, and he never even learns who he is. Common psychological maladies. Stress has very real, very serious effects on our health and our term of life, its worst physical effects being chronic sickness and rapid aging. A body hampered by the senseless is derailed from its proper duties and must let them slide. As a warning, the first attribute it abandons is appearance. One's physical appearance is the most delicate indication of our welfare that the body can muster. The brain lends a large mass for control of our facial structure, in part to show early signs as a preemptive strike against illness, physical or spiritual in origin. Depression is a spiritual sickness, with denial as its root. No one stays depressed without it. Anxiety, being one level less suppressed, has fear as its root. Fear-driven man is run down by premise, and as a result is more prone to all forms of sickness. A man who has chosen evasion as his means of dealing with existence shouldn't exist, and self-destruction, rapidly wearing out his organs and no longer replenishing his health, is nature's way of putting him out of his misery. One's self is defined by our depth of commitment to bring our greatest truth into being. Fear-driven man brings no truth into being, so he lives without an identity he is willing to admit, and spawns the plethora of psychological disorders ever recorded by man. Not adhering to the concept of identity causes identity crisis. Evading sensory perception and identification causes panic attacks, leaving him lost, helpless, and afraid. Living without goals results in there being no point to his existence. He is a speck of dust floating in the universe, and he feels insignificant. What did he expect to feel when life is approached as if it has no meaning? Did he expect it to be meaningful? He got what he asked for: no confidence, no self-esteem, and no means to achieve any. Disorders mutate with every cognitive violation, but fall into predictable routines. Ingrained social dependencies result in over-elaborate cognitive structures built on the opinions of others, leading to paranoia and exhibitionism. The absence of sound purpose forces a substitute from the simple overeating to the complex drugs and alcoholism to cover the true vice, cognitive procrastination. Mismanaged energy and the guilt of untended dreams leads to chronic insomnia. Desperation is being backed into a deep enough corner to know that for his premises it's too late, and he now faces a real threat to his life. The psychotic joy of relishing the true outcome of his premises is called masochism or sadism. In all psychological maladies, you will find a negation of one or more of the proper elements of cognition. There is no form of natural illness that results in one's statistical choice of harm being greater than one's choice of good. There is no honest bias. If the consistent choice is evil, then so are the premises driving it. We were not structurally designed to carry the dysfunctional mediums of crisis, self-inflicted injustice, or unhappiness. These are man-made problems. Due to his own cowardice, fear-driven man doesn't know where to put his hands or feet. He doesn't know how to act, who to be, what is expected, or when. Suffering these burdens without a moment's rest, he swings between presumptuousness and humility in life, swaying from a dominance he cannot impose to a subservience he need not feel in a fit of chronic psychological trauma, and considers it normal. But evidence that it's not shows in that he seeks not to solve the mysteries of his life, but to find a way out. If you've come to the point in life where your only true satisfaction is to contemplate leaving it, you're doing something wrong. That's all for now. Next up is All Doors Closed to Reform. I split these videos up by subject so you'd have a better chance of finding moral armor, and then perhaps go through the whole thing for free. Why? To help create a leader in every life. Sound civilization stair-steps up from sound coherence to sound individual to productive groups of mature individuals. Self-hatred drives fear-driven people in our world to wipe out the individual. So we all need moral armor to protect ourselves and the future of mankind. Click subscribe and leave a thumbs up if you'd like to help wipe out moral confusion fast and make the world a better place.